Try and see what you can get for him.
Absolutely.
Jim Hendry should put him out there, see what kind of offers he rolls, and if he can get a couple decent prospects, maybe one higher level one, why not go for him? Marmol has shown that he can be spectacular, but he also can be terrible.
One of the suggestions I saw was trading Marmol, getting some good prospects, and making our young reliever Chris Carpenter, not to be confused with the former Cy Young winner, giving him some games, giving him some ninth inning appearances, and seeing what he can do in that role. And Chris Carpenter, when he came up to the bigs, he wasn't spectacular, but he wasn't too bad. He has a great fastball. He could hit 100 miles an hour. And I know the old adage is, it doesn't matter if you can throw 100 if you can't locate your pitches. But he can. He's got good location, and it's only a matter of whether or not he can make it as a closer in Major League Baseball.
And in my opinion, the Cubs need to reload. They need to shed as much payroll as they can and reload. And you know what? By doing this, they would be able to reload.
Absolutely. And now I want to go over my MVP and Cy Young candidates.
Okay.
We have, for the MVP, Aramis Ramirez has been absolutely outstanding. He hit in the first half, he hit .298 with 15 home runs and 51 RBIs with an OPS of 843. This is the Aramis Ramirez that we came to know and love. He's come through the way we expect. Coincidentally, it's a contract year. Hopefully it doesn't give Jim Hendry any ideas because he is up there in age. But it's nice to see Ramirez come into his own.
It is, because I always liked Ramirez ever since he came over to the Cubs from the Pirates. And last year he had a pretty bad season. And I'm glad to see that he's doing well again.
Absolutely. And in the Cy Young side, I'm going to take a little interesting twist on this. I'm going to take two relievers to take up one starter position. Sound good?
Sounds good.
I'm going to take Kerry Wood and Sean Marshall. Together, they're 6-7 with a 2.73 ERA in 75 games, pitching 72 2/3 innings.
Wow.
They have done everything that's expected of them in the 7th and 8th inning, and they have been the bright spot of a pretty bad Cubs pitching staff.
I couldn't agree more with that.
All right, now let's move on to Major League Baseball as a whole. K-Rod to Milwaukee. John Axford has done a spectacular job as Milwaukee's closer. He's been unbelievable. He was even an All-Star, I believe, correct?
I believe so.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. And Milwaukee's serious. If they can get one more bat to help out Braun and Fielder in that lineup, look out for them. They have the Central. But speaking of the Central, the Pirates are steamrolling in the National League Central. It is nice to see them finally coming around.
It is. They haven't had a winning season all my life. I believe 1992.
92 was the last time.
It was their last winning season. It's nice to see the folks in the Steel City finally getting a winning baseball team.
Absolutely, and most divisions are very tight right now. The Giants are running away with the West. I think that the Diamondbacks are playing way over their heads. I think the Giants have that division right where they need it, and I think if they make a couple big moves, they have it where they want it to be.
And look for the Rockies to make a move. Look for them to come on strong.
They always
are
do.
a great team, and they always turn it on.
And they always do. Speaking of the tight divisions where they are right now, this leads me to ask, what is the best current rivalry in baseball? Because the Cardinals and the Reds have been playing this weekend. And I would personally go on the record to say the Cardinals and Reds, there's so much bitterness, so much hatred there. Everyone wants to talk about Cubs, Cardinals, Yankees, Red Sox, Giants, Dodgers. Give me a Reds-Cardinals game, and I'm going to be so happy.
Yeah, and I would have to agree with that. I think that they are the best current rivalry. Obviously, a lot of people think New York and Boston, but that's always going to be there. But besides that, I don't see another rivalry that has the level of animosity at this point in time.
We are going to move on to the NFL in just a moment. Sit tight, folks. It has been announced in the NFL that there will be a hopeful agreement made in the collective bargaining discussions this week. Most sides are happy about it except for, shocking, James Harrison, who seems to be unhappy with just about everything that happens. You've been following the lockout pretty closely. What do you have to say about it?
I'm glad that they're finally making tremendous strides towards this agreement. I'm not familiar with the exact specifics of what's happening, but I know that one thing that was agreed on that I can remember was that there can only be one franchise tag applied to one player.
Which I think is appropriate. I think that's appropriate.
I agree. It completely takes away this dictation of the players and where they go after their contract is ran up. So players like Peyton Manning, Vincent Jackson, and other guys who had recently gotten the franchise tag will no longer have to fear getting that again in the future.
And with all this talk about the lockout, there might be an agreement. We may very well see football next season. The Hall of Fame game between the Bears and the Rams has been at risk. There has been jeopardized. If we see the collective bargaining agreement passed, I'm thinking we're going to see that game.
I disagree. I saw
Really?
something in the paper or online, don't remember which one it was, but I definitely saw something a couple days ago that said that even if they finish this agreement within the next week, there will not be time. And Mike Martz actually said on the record that the Bears could be ready in one day, which I'd love to see that one. But you know what? If they have it or not, who really cares? It's preseason, but I'd love to see it because that just means that football is going to be back.
It means football will be back, and it'll be a nice way to ease people into. The Bears and Rams. It's a good matchup. Everyone wants to see Bradford.
Totally. He had
especially
a great
on the
season.
He did, and especially on the national level, everyone wants to see Bradford, and it's going to be interesting to see how they could market that, and it'll be interesting to see what they could do against the Bears for sure.
No, I'd love to see Bradford, even though it'd be first game in the preseason. He'd probably get 1 or 2 sets, and it'd be great exposure. And it just means that football is back in action. It's going to happen. Nice to see Jay Cutler and all the guys out there. So hopefully the Bears fans don't try and kill him.
Absolutely. Now, one of the rumors out there is that Plaxico Burress could be one of the new Bears receivers. Brian Urlacher and the team like him. Do you think he's a good fit on this Bears team?
Skills-wise, yeah. He's a big receiver. He's not necessarily a playmaker, but he does make plays.
Oh, yeah.
He's big. He can catch the ball when he needs to. Yeah, obviously, his skills would be a good fit. But maybe his personality and ego might not be a good fit.
Right.
But the thing is, though, this is a guy coming off winning the Super Bowl and then going to prison.
Yeah.
And now he has to prove himself. So I really think that, why not take a risk on him? Give him a 1-year deal, see what he can do, because the only thing that he needs to prove himself.
Well, you look at Michael Vick. You look at what happened to Michael Vick. He had the worst reputation in the league, and towards the end of the season, I actually kind of found myself rooting for him because he's making this big comeback. He seemed very sincere about the changes he made in his life, and he put up a phenomenal season for the Eagles last season.
I agree. Why not see if Burris can do it for the Bears? Because you know what? What other help do they have at wide receiver?
Absolutely.
They need it.
Plus, it's hard to compare to sports, but you look at what the Lakers did with Ron Artest. Artest had that bad personality, had that bad image, goes to the Lakers, helps them win an NBA championship. You know what I mean? So it's like somebody may be able to disrupt that chemistry, but it's a matter of how well they perform on the field.
Exactly.
If they could back up their talk, that's all I care about. And Plaxico Burress, he's a very athletic guy. He was once one of the best receivers in the NFL, quietly one of the best receivers in the NFL. He would be a perfect fit for this Bears team because they need the receiving help right now. Moving on to the NBA. Stars are considering playing overseas. Darren Williams, Amari Stoudemire, and Dwayne Wade have all talked about it. And Joakim Noah is going to play in France.
Really?
Yes, Joakim Noah decided that he will be playing for France. Should these players go overseas during the lockout?
I personally don't see what's wrong with this. Obviously, the teams fear that they would get hurt and that would void their contract, which is obviously the player's risk. But I see no reason why, if there is a lockout and the season is missed, why not? They need to play at a competitive level. Europe offers an extremely high level of play. Obviously not at the same level as the NBA, but just about as good as you can get. And they'd still be making quite a nice chunk of change over there.
And I actually believe that they could stay, healthy, their conditioning will stay good if they play overseas because they'll be playing at that competitive level you were talking about. And playing in the championships, it's kind of a big deal. They have to play at the highest level they can. And personally, if we see basketball next season, I'd love to see what Joakim Noah is capable of after playing over the summer with France, seeing what they're capable of doing and coming in. But not much news other than that in the NBA. But what do you expect in the middle of July?
Obviously not much. It would normally be free agency, but considering the lockout, we'll just have to sit this one out and hope they can figure this out before camp breaks out and they start playing some preseason games.
Bulls are still looking for a wingman, too.
That they are, and they can't do anything until this lockout is lifted.
Absolutely. We're going to move on to the NHL. Not much news on the national level other than Brad Richards getting his Twitter hacked by Tommy Lee. Pretty interesting stuff. You can check that out on Yahoo. Patrick Kane spoke out and saying that he likes the toughness of the team, but then it came out in the first day of the Blackhawks Convention that he hurt his wrist and needs surgery that may jeopardize the start of the season. Now, some people are criticizing, thinking that Kane's injury is not hockey-related. If it was a hockey injury, why is he waiting until now to do something about it?
I really don't know the story behind it. I don't think anybody really does except for him and the Hawks. And all that matters is that he's hurt now. Fix it, and that's all you can do. It is what it is. And hopefully he will be healthy for the regular season because they need him.